Mhm. 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 What the fuck? Good job, Mange. Mange, come here, Bubba. It's okay. Come on. Mange, come on. Mange, come here, Bubba. Mange, come here. Here you go. Okay? Mange, come here. You're okay. Come on. I don't understand. Hi, Mitch. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, this one's weird.
Hello. Hey,
Hi.
can you hear me?
I
I can hear
I can hear, but I can't see.
I just turned the camera on. Yeah. I know we missed you having you on the calls, and so glad you're back and everyone's back. So for 5 weeks, tonight's Monday night, next week on December 1st will be Tuesday night, right? You're all
Okay.
aware it's a Tuesday night, and then we'll have Monday nights. Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. So without further ado, let's, unless there's any other comments, otherwise let's get started. Yes, Lauren.
I'm home with my kids tonight, so if my video goes off, I'm just escaping with them, and then I may just need to scoot out for a minute, but just so you know.
Thank you for that, and come back if you can, and sometimes it happens. So
Thank you.
okay. Hope you can stay on, and fingers crossed.
I hope so too.
Thanks. All right, so let me see here. This is the one we want. It's like, which file? All right, so here we start. Now this is 1 of 6. Let me be very clear. This is a 5-week to finish out the year. And if there's communications with 6, that's an error. So a couple of the Zoom meetings I set up and they said 6, that's incorrect. The slides, if it says 6, that's incorrect. We're going 5 weeks. That was on your sales page with the date. So that is what you paid for. Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry for the boo-boos. Okay, so tonight we'll start with our meditation. I'll talk about the surveys. Thank you to the 3 people who submitted responses to that. We'll do some goal setting and tapping as needed, and then you'll have your Writing Hero Love support seat. I know how much you love it. And then next inspired actions for your 1-week goal. Sound good?
Yes.
All right, so let's just take a nice deep breath and take a few of them. Nice, slow, deep breaths coming down into your body. And as you breathe, you may want to close your eyes. Excuse me. And just let go of the tensions of the day, any of the spinning thoughts. Anything that once was, it was so 2 minutes ago or 20 hours ago. Just breathing and coming into this moment and letting go of any expectations for the moments to come. Because we don't know how they'll unfold, but we're creating our community together, so they will unfold. And as we breathe, we connect soul to soul, mind to mind, heart to heart in this community, being with each other, holding each other with respect and high regard, with compassion. Ah, and how does that feel? Becoming more present. Notice any tensions in the body. Just wiggle if there's any areas that are tight. Notice if your breathing is any bigger or deeper. What happened to your heart rate? Yawning is good. Yeah. Excellent. Anybody want to comment on how they feel?
Relaxed.
Yay. Good. And let's continue it. Okay, so survey says I had sent you out a link to a Google Forms, and thank you to the 3 people who submitted. The other 2 people, should you choose, it's still open. I'd love to get a couple more feedbacks. You're not required to, so there's no pressure, but should you want to, it's open. And then next week I will share the results of the survey in the aggregate. Okay, and it is anonymous.
For some reason, I was not able to get to it. It wouldn't let me in for some reason.
Okay, you and I can work offline with that
Okay.
because I know your technology is a little glitchy. So, we'll give it a little TLC and see what happens. Okay, thanks for that. All right, so let's talk about your vision for the next 5 weeks. And think about your big vision. And this is that famous quote from Alice in Wonderland. Which way I ought to go from here, she asked the Cheshire Cat. And the Cheshire Cat, in his wisdom, says, depends a good deal on where you want to get to. And this is for life too, right? And if Alice says, I don't much care where, the Cheshire Cat, in his profound wisdom, says, then it doesn't much matter which way you go. Alice says, as long as I get somewhere. I love her clarity, don't you? And so the Cheshire Cat says, oh, you're sure to get somewhere. You're sure to do that if only you walk long enough. And you know what? It's the same thing with writing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't much care where you're going, as long as you keep writing, you will get somewhere at some point, someplace, and some time. But with a little more clarity in your goal setting, you'll get there faster. You'll know if you're on track. You'll know what your progress is. Right? So, and you guys, you know, you've done great with your SMART goals. So I do want to emphasize that and reinforce that. So let's, you know, spend a minute or 2 and think about where you are on the roadmap for writing. Okay. You know, and we did a exercise at the end of class 6, and it seems like long ago. It was a couple weeks, but so what are you noticing in your writing, in your goal setting skills, and your time management skills? What's opening up? What's possible for you that's bigger? And how can you state that in a goal for 5 weeks? What's the overarching vision? And then you'll have your weekly SMART goals to support it. Okay, what's most helpful to you? All right. Okay, and then when anybody's ready, you can tell me and we'll capture your vision for the 5 weeks to close out 2020. Think about it. Let's close out 2020 and start 2021. And then if you follow astrology at all, like there's really good energy. There's a lot of people feeling more positive. I know the numbers stink on COVID and, you know, we got decimal house, but it's like there's more people have wrestled with life changes and we're more in a position to reclaim our power for 2021, readjust and move forward. So that's how I want you to approach this. How does that sound?
Good.
Okay, and if there's angst about it, it's like that's where you want to do that to happen, because I know it's not been easy for any of us. So, and Nick, saluting the people, the essential workers, right? Okay, so enough of my soapbox here. Does anyone have their vision for what they'd like to see and finish out 2020 with?
I'll go.
Okay, Maria, go for it.
I really, really want to finish this book. I just really need to focus on more editing and changing some of the dialogue, adding more dialogue. And I kind of feel like I'm okay with the way I have ended it at this point. At first I wasn't sure, but I feel comfortable with it now.
Okay, and what caused that shift? What can you identify what allowed that to happen?
Just reading it over, and then I kind of connected with a book that my sister gave my kids when they were little, and it's called Grandma's Shoes, or I believe, yeah, Grandma's Shoes. And it was a happy story, but then it ended, not that it ended sadly, but it went through a bunch of emotions. And I kind of feel like that's where my story has gone, and I'm okay with it.
Okay, great. So if I can comment on that?
Yep.
This is a beautiful process you're in because you haven't written a story before, right? Like
Right.
you came into this course really fresh when we started, back a while ago. And just trying to learn how to structure, we talked about plotting and dialogue and character development and the emotional twists and turns, and you handled the voice of your story so beautifully, the emotional piece so beautifully. And then there's that crisis of doubt that kicked in and the inner critic, if that's accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're nodding your head, so that's
Yeah.
yeah. But you gave yourself that pause, that space to just take a break from it. And this is where the personal development work comes in. It's sort of wrestling those demons in the subconscious, who am I to write? It's no good, all that stuff about judgment and, anything that's in there. And now you've come to this place of acceptance, and it's like, no, it's okay. And I'm comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the hero's journey of being a writer. That's the journey. You've been slaying your dragons, which is the voices of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So celebration for becoming out victorious and saying, I have a story and I'm comfortable with it. And now let's finish it.
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. That's heavy duty lifting. That's heavy lifting.
It is, for sure. Yes.
Okay. So welcome back in so many ways.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. You've all been very supportive and just there, that circle. It's very heartwarming, and I appreciate all of you.
You're
Yay.
welcome. Big hugs. Hugs from Maria. Awesome. All right. So did we capture? Yeah. So that's your big vision, is really wanting to finish it, the editing, the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Great. Okay. Who's next? Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
I'll go.
Okay, Lauren.
I was looking over the questions you did, and I feel like I've tried to be more concise, and that I've incorporated more time. I usually do, if I can sit down to write, it usually extends to maybe even more than 30 minutes. So, and I just feel more positive writing and more confident. So I would like to try to write definitely 2 times a month, but maybe even insert a 3rd time So a goal for 3.
Okay,
Sorry.
and is it just writing 3 times a month, or it's writing and posting the blog 3 times a month?
Writing and posting the blog 3 times a month. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Hear the difference in that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. What have you been noticing on responses to your blog? Anything?
Not too many.
Okay, and it's still new, it's still fresh. I encourage you not to get discouraged as much as possible, and keep at it. So have you been adding in hashtags at the bottom of your post also?
No.
Are you on Twitter?
Not on Twitter, on Instagram.
Okay, on Instagram, do you use hashtags?
I'm not very good at it. I'm trying to work on that.
Okay, we're gonna pin that. I might do something next week with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Lauren,
Yes.
one of the other things that you can do too, I don't know if there's bloggers that you like that you follow already. Sometimes they'll have people do guest posts for them.
Okay.
You can always reach out to people and ask if they're interested in having a guest post, and then they would share your content and you would get access to their followers too, which is totally awesome. I know that used to be a big thing, like when people first started doing like the WordPress blogs and stuff, but through Instagram, I mean, you can easily, do hashtags for each other and stuff like that, just like Denise said. But yeah, if you are interested in reaching out to people, there's bloggers out there who I'm sure would be totally interested in working with you and sharing some of your content.
That's an awesome idea. I actually joined through my dietitian work. I joined they were looking for guests or for interns for newsletters, and they invited me to the committee, and it's an intern position, but very flexible, and it kind of speaks to what you're talking about. Like there's bloggers on there, people who have been writing for just getting, and they said you can do guest articles and stuff. So I definitely will look into more that avenue. That's a really good idea.
Awesome. Okay, so in that vein, I'm going to piggyback off what Dawn suggested. Podcasts are the hottest thing going. So, it's, yes, you're a blogger, but also you could check out and search for podcast about nutrition and then see if you can be a guest speaker. And that's a way to promote your blog as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right, great. So are people interested in my doing I know we're focusing this program on the support and the reading, but is anyone interested in my putting together like a little learning segment, say 15 minutes next week about some of this?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I heard the positive on that. Okay, yes. All right, great. Anything else, Lauren?
I think that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. Look at the progress you've made since you started. It's like, holy smokes, lady. This is it. So now just keep consistently, taking actions, moving forward, and you'll build your tribe. You'll build your following.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, good. You're welcome. Who's next?
I'll go.
Okay, Chrissy.
I'm still focusing on finishing up at least the first draft. And then after the new year, so hopefully I can finish in the next 5 weeks, and then focusing on editing it and then decide what I'm going to do with it.
Okay, and is it fair to say Q1 for edits? That gives you 3 months for Q1.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. And what to do with it? What do you think you're going to do with it?
I'm still going back and forth. Sometimes traditional publishing sounds like, because I would have an access to a nice editor. You're still learning how to, because most of the time you have to do your own advertising and everything else, even when you're working with them. So I would still learn all that stuff about posting and everything, and building a following. At the same time, I'm thinking about the timing of a coronavirus story, and thinking, well, that could be years to get a traditional publisher to say they'll publish, so maybe self-publishing. I don't know. Maybe I'll try traditional. I don't know how to do query letters. I've never done one. So I have to do a lot of research if I do that. So sometimes self-publishing sounds like a good way. There's actually, I actually have an inspiration in real life for my police officer, but he's just a regular person, but if I wouldn't be able to even think about someone doing a cover for me if I did traditional publishing, because they decide what to do with the cover. And a lot of times they use, even though they're traditional, they use, photos are already out there, and then they just have ones that they've paid for and they have the rights for. So, so sometimes I think, oh, it'd be really great to be able to control that. At the same time, I don't even know how I would approach a regular person in a professional way and say, you don't know me, but I've seen pictures of you, stuff like that. And plus it would be easier to do that if I was already established. So, so I don't know. Those are just some ideas I'm playing with. The good thing about traditional publishing is I'm sure you learn a lot from the editing side on just how much they change it or don't change it, you know what I mean, before it goes into the final publishing. But you do have access to all the line editing, the story editing, like everything. So that part, I would probably learn a lot for future books, which is interesting for me and something that I feel like I need to work on. So, and that way I would love to have access to that. So I don't know. I guess it depends. I could try it for a couple months, and then if I don't hear anything, just decide to self-publish and just give it a shot. I'm not sure, but I do want to get it out there quicker, because with the coronavirus, everything's changing, So I do think it is a timely thing. So I don't know. I'm going to, for right now, just focus on finishing it and then decide and see what happens when I finish it and how I feel, I guess.
Okay, great. So you covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
You're talking through your process. So celebrate talking through your process. You're definitely, weighing your pros and cons, which is good. What I would like to say and comment on, if you're okay. Okay. So you've got at least one bonus coaching session with me. So I'd love to take advantage of that. As far as the cover okay, and I will also want to commend you on knowing that if you use photographs, you need to have the copyright for that.
Yeah.
So super on that. If you are using a regular person and approaching them for the cover, depending on who it is, they might be okay with you, even though you're not a published author and you're not known or a celebrity. It depends on who it is and how you're approaching them. My recommendation, if you were to do that, you would want to have some sort of contract or a legal document in writing.
Yeah.
Cover your butt about paying them remuneration or not.
Yeah.
What are the copyright rules? You would own all the copyright for the images. You would be able to use them in, any sort of manner you see fit, and they signing the legal document to agree to this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how, it's great to know that person or see that person, but you'd want to handle all those technical legal details.
Yeah.
Right. And then the photographs really need to be good, high quality. The resolution, so that if they're blown up to a poster, see, this is the thing, you want to think long terms.
Yeah.
So if you publish this with either Amazon or traditional publishing or Vanity Press, you got 3 ways to go. you could conceivably, if we ever have conferences and stuff again, but think about having a book signing, and maybe it's outside because we have Corona, but you'd still could have a 5 foot tall poster of you for the book cover.
Yeah,
You want to have good quality graphics,
yeah, yeah.
right? Okay, so those are all those considerations. Query letters is a whole other topic. So yeah, you and I need to chat offline privately, and figure that out. And Maria, you've got one, we need to get that one scheduled. So yeah, and Nick, you've got time left on yours, I know. So yeah, let's try to get some of these support calls booked by the end of the year and not let them drag out too much. Okay.
Yes.
Did any of that help, Chrissy?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then your plan of maybe you do go for traditional and then self-publish. That's one way to go. The other way to go is to, focus on finding an agent, and then they shop it around to the traditional publishers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your homework would be to start researching agents for romantic novels.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And I think your instinct is so on target, where there is a time factor to this. The people are starting to get worn out and jaded by COVID. So
Yeah.
the longer this goes on, as far as the book goes, the less of a novelty it will be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if the demand will be there in the same way. It's because, I mean, we're not quite at a year, but we're coming up in like March or something in a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sooner rather than better, sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So
And I've already seen some other Dawn found a short story by an author she likes, and that for a character from a previous book, and she wrote a short story with the coronavirus and put it on her website. So they're starting to come out there too. I'm starting to see some other ones. There's like a TV show called Love and something in the coronavirus. I guess it's kind of like a reality show, but I haven't seen it. But, so it is sort of out there, but I haven't seen too many. And what I've read, because I read a lot of romance blogs and stuff, and a lot of authors, which made me feel like, but I tried not to, but they're like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to write about love and coronavirus. And I think it's too sad. And I want to keep my writing, and some of the readers were agreeing. So I'm like, so I wasn't sure to, I don't know if I could make it a series, because you don't know, everything's changing, who knows what it's going to be like when a vaccine comes out, and, things are changing. So, but I have read about it, and I'm trying to do research about it in around my writing. So I'm always open, and I like to read those stories when they do come out to see how everyone else is writing them. So
absolutely. And here's what I want to say about that from a marketing standpoint, from from what my marketing coaches have, so one of my coaches is like, when Corona first hit, she's like, do not do anything with Corona. Because it was like, it's opportunistic, it's manipulative, like ambulance chasing. But the fact is, I'm a coach who does trauma healing and stress reduction, and it's like, it's life challenges. So it didn't make sense to me not to serve people who are scared, because I'm a life coach. That's what I do, right?
Yeah.
So you got to balance that out. And it depends on the energy with which you are approaching it. She was right in that people were ambulance chasing, and there's an energy to that, like, let's be opportunistic and let's make money on it. And people can sense that, right? So apply that to your book. the people who are saying don't write about COVID and don't make money off of it, if you have an energy, that's one thing, but your story's different and you're not doing it for manipulation or greed to make money. You're
Yeah.
doing it to tell a story because the whole dating scene has changed.
Yeah.
Right now, okay, any comments or questions on that?
Yeah, I've read a lot of dating articles and stuff that like people are like single life stinks right now. Like it's so lonely. So that, I mean, that's where I got the idea from, is when I read about that. And I was like, oh man, imagine being single right now, how awful that might be. People aren't seeing their family members. And yeah. And so so hopefully if I focus on that part of it in my marketing and stuff, I'm focusing on the positive, like you're not alone type of thing.
Right.
Hopefully,
Yeah, and then that's where your book can be in service. This is the positive piece of it. Your book can actually serve to help people.
Yeah.
Right. It can give them a different perspective. It can give them a different way of looking at it and processing it in a different approach.
Yeah.
So that's where, and you will attract people to your book from that perspective. The other people who are commenting on the blog and saying, oh no, and it's negative, if they fall off the wayside, be okay with that. Lauren, with your blog, it's the same thing. This message is for you, for any of your stories, for each of us. Okay, all 6 of us in this group. We will attract some people to us and they're going to love us and they form our tribe and we can create a movement.
Yeah.
And there will be people who are repelled by us and it's negative and they don't like what we have to say or what we're doing.
Yeah.
And those are the people, you don't focus on those. Okay.
Yeah.
And the more you can stay true, stay centered and grounded and true to your vision with clarity.
Yeah.
You get stronger and that's what will attract people to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So there's that piece. There was something else and I think I lost it. But that's really important. It's like not everyone's going to like it.
Yeah.
So, the other tidbit I want to say is, you start putting YouTube videos, like you guys could be doing like Shorty, the Facebook Lives or YouTube videos and just talk about your writing process or what your challenges are. And here's, whether it's a quilting video that I watch quilting videos all the time, whether it's the coaching, whether it's, meditation music, there can be 20,000 likes and there can be 5 thumbs down. And, I coach my coaching friends and clients and it's like, you might get 5 thumbs down, but you got 1,000 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Right? As human beings, we're sort of wired to look at those thumbs down, but that's where the tapping again can really help support you on moving forward. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And actually in defense, I think some people hit that by accident because I've noticed it's like, why would you thumb down that video? It looked perfectly fine. I'm like, or you're a troll, so sometimes it's not really accurate, but yeah.
Well, that's it. So you got to have a little bit of a thick skin with this business, whether it's writing or coaching or anything. Yeah. All right, good. I still think there's one more point in there, but I can't think of it. So
that's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so who's next for their vision? Dawn or Nick? Dawn's gonna go. Okay. All right, my dear. What do you think?
I want to tell Chrissy something really quick. She's done such a beautiful job personifying coronavirus that I feel like her story kind of transcends coronavirus. And I feel like if Chrissy wanted to, and she was to say, oh my goodness, I'm sick of this COVID stuff. I don't want to do this anymore. She could easily keep everything that she has, swap out coronavirus for some sort of paranormal romance and do a zombie invasion or something like that. I mean, it would be work, and I don't even hear you in that direction. But I hate to have even like the smallest like kernel of a thought in your mind that you're doing this and you're like, oh, but COVID, So you've done such a beautiful job, Chrissy. You're doing great.
Thank you, Dawn.
I just want to get mine finished. it's been done before, and now I just want it done in the style it's written in now, and I just want to get it done.
Okay, so Dawn, can you hold that for just 1 second? Chrissy, I remembered my thought.
Oh yeah,
Is that okay, Dawn?
absolutely.
Okay, so you said about the cereal, and then because the vaccine's coming out, the vaccine coming out could be your next book because you could have
Where's your paper to prove you've been vaccinated before we get together? Yeah.
or it's like, you know what? They go to get vaccinated and they end up meeting somebody and what's the girl's name in your story?
Lexi.
Thank you. And you know, Lexi could go to get vaccinated and they could be the really cute guy, and then she introduces the cute guy to her best friend type deal. So like
Oh.
you could have another story come out.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have the makings for, you know, for a serial, or it could be somebody that moves out of the neighborhood because of COVID. You know, maybe they have a relative die and they need to move to Ohio and clean out their parents' house, and then the neighbor comes in and it's a sexy somebody or other, and then you could connect a best friend. Like there's
Oh, yeah.
see, there's a gazillion ways to go about this.
Yeah, I like those ideas.
Okay, so there you go. All right, so now Dawn, we're coming to you. So let's do your big vision for 5 weeks. So finishing your book, I think I heard.
Yeah, I wrote it and I finished it over the summer. And then I just realized it wasn't like what in the style I wanted to write it. So I literally like have been rewriting good portions of it. And I just want to get it done because I know everything that happens. I just need to actually have the dude tell the story. So he needs to just tell the story. Get it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a good goal for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And the fact that you wrote it in one verse, one voice, and then you changed it around, now it's in first person or third.
It's in first person now. It was written in third person before, but I took out like an entire storyline in it that just didn't feel like it didn't make sense with the new stuff. So I feel like got it condensed down where I want it to be. I'm telling the story that I want to tell. And yeah, I like the voice. I like the voice now more than I liked it before. So
excellent. So you like his voice now. That's your writer's journey. This is your hero's journey with your writing. You've had to work through all that machination, but to get his voice to come out clear and concise, and that creates impact and is powerful. So excellent. All right. Great. All right then. So Nick, thank you, Don.
I just want to get as close to finishing this book as possible. So I'm getting there. I know it. I'm heading towards that final act.
Okay.
And it's just out of reach.
All right. And I love that. You know you're getting there. You're coming close. All right. So this is really great because we've got a lot of momentum. We're used to working with each other. So let's really set those weekly goals. And, you know, Lauren's point about writing in shorter blocks, which can sometimes stretch out longer. So that's progress also. But it's like, given the holidays and stuff, if your writing needs to be in shorter increments, then do it. Do it in little spurts instead of the marathon. But awesome. Or book your time. Book your writing time as if it's an appointment. And then it's like, nope, this is my time. All right. Great. All right. Thank you for that. So now we've got your big vision over 5 weeks. And let's move into our Writing Hero Love Support Seat. We've got about 45 minutes. So who would like to read?
I can go.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Who else, for time management purposes, who else wants to read tonight? And then who wants to read next week?
I'll read tonight.
Okay. Who else?
I have something short I can read. Unless Maria, I'm happy to let
No,
you
no,
go
no,
this
no.
week.
I was gonna say I'll go next week.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
So Maria's on for 12-1. For time management purposes, can we have Lauren read first? And then we'll divide the remaining time between Nick and Chrissy. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, Lauren, unmute yourself and you are up, my dear.
This is a little different. It's not nutrition related, so I just tried something new to add to the personal feel of the blog. So I'd appreciate your feedback to let me know what you think. The title is Stop Running on Empty. Moms need a full cup too. It was apparent at about week 3 of remote learning that I needed a reset. With up to 6 alarms going off all day for 3 elementary kids' online schedules, I was feeling so tense and unable to fully relax. I even tried inserting small bits of self-care throughout the day, and my husband helped with some chores, but it wasn't enough. I still felt as if everyone was taking sips away from my cup, leaving me feeling depleted and easily overwhelmed. I needed a break and some time alone for just me. My favorite podcast seemed to sense my struggle and offered a virtual retreat earlier this month. For a small price, a little over a dinner out with the girls, moms were encouraged to book a night away from home at a COVID-safe location to take some time for themselves. It was the incentive I needed to take a break. My husband was supportive, but on call for work. We had to compromise, but I didn't sacrifice my need for some time alone. I set up my space in a room of our house with a door to close. I straightened it up and added a few special touches like white string lights, my salt lamp, and some soft blankets. I had fun cooking a new quiche recipe and baked my favorite apple muffins. I was so excited to get some quiet time alone. The retreat offered a flexible, blank schedule with ideas on what to do, self-reflection activities, and some live and recorded Zoom videos. And it was all completely optional. Taking a nap if you needed it was encouraged too. The moms I met virtually were friendly and encouraging. I thought I'd share a few themes that came up to make sure we get the care we need. Ways to keep your cup full. Communicating with spouse, family, stating you need some time to yourself, and setting up boundaries so that you get quality time. Add something special to your space. String lights, comfy blanket, socks, even dimming the lights can make your space feel more uplifting and calm. If you can, escape to a new space to really feel rejuvenated. Do something every day that makes you happy. A long run, reading, dancing, a warm cup of your favorite tea. I found I had more patience, positive energy, and laugh more at things I would have taken too seriously when I wasn't relaxed. As moms, we will have so much more to give and support each other and those we care for if we are not running on empty. Below is a link to the podcast that hosted the retreat. Check them out. They are 2 fun, realistic moms. I think you'll feel expanded your circle of friends with content you'll enjoy. How do you fill your cup?
I love it. All right. Is there anything Lauren could change or restructure, or how do we feel it fits onto her nutrition blog?
It's holistic. It's part of the whole picture. She
Mhm.
also did the awesome thing where she's saying refilling your cup, which I know that's an expression, but it's nourishment. So there you go.
Ah, okay.
I love it. You did a great job on this. Some really good self-care ideas. And also I love the salt lamp. I always want to get one of those and I haven't gotten one yet. But I also like how you said putting something special in your space, making your space special, because that's actually applicable to all different things, not just the remote learning, not just you keeping yourself healthy. But I actually recently did that. I put in some new stuff in my little writing corner over here too. So good ideas. Great job, Lauren.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, I agree. I love the, oh, sorry. I love the connection with just, nutrition is so much more when you're taking care of yourself. It is self-care, and I love the clothes part with the comfy socks. And I just, actually, this is my favorite writing of yours because it covers everything. And I love the the feeling of togetherness that it comes out, and because people are lonely during this time. And again, I love that theme, and get together with your friends. And I love the introductions with the cup, in the middle of the story. And yeah, it's just it gives me a happy feeling. And I love the running on empty. And I love the part with the phone alarms, because that's exactly what I'm going through at home. My phone goes off. I have so many alarms during the day. He's got the Zoom call, then it's this, and it's such a different way of life now. And I just love the fact that you can really relate to what you said. And so very good. I love it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Maria, you wanted to say something?
No, I agree with everything that Don and Chrissy said. Absolutely, 100%. And the whole thing about the eye-opening factor about all the alarms going off with having 3 children and all of that. My kids are adults now, so I'm not experiencing that. And it's just a real eye-opener to hear someone that is going through that, and all your awesome techniques to deal with what you're going through.
Thank you.
For sure. Nick, anything for Lauren?
I really love the cup metaphor, and I think it does go well with the nutrition stuff, because I think that mental health is just as important and comes in importance with what you eat. So I think the way you feel mentally is going to affect how you choose to eat and stuff like that. I think it goes hand in hand.
And that's an idea for another blog.
Yeah.
Right? Nutritious eating, emotional eating. Are you feeling bad? So you're going for the chips type thing. So absolutely, Nick, you're right on target with that. So Lauren, I love that you grounded it in that real life problems, the phone alarms, remote learning, and then the self-care. And when you mentioned your quiche and your muffin, that's where you could actually link to a recipe or put something in below.
Okay.
If you wanted to tie that in, the metaphor, filling your cup, running on empty, nourishing your spirit, nourishing your, you don't, if it doesn't work with you to say nourish your soul, then you could say nourish your spirit, or replenish, like nourish your energy. Like you've got that whole metaphor there.
Okay.
Yeah, really concrete tips, which I love. And speaking of Dawn's idea, that person you did the retreat with, that would be a nice link to contact them and say, hey, I wrote this blog.
Okay.
And so by you putting the link to that podcast, that's called a backlink that helps her SEO out.
Okay.
So if you contact them and then they can link to your blog, that's a backlink to you, that boosts your SEO rankings, your search engine optimization. And it was warm. And then mentioning the body movement was on target. The comfort, new space. It's like we have comfort food. You created a comfortable environment. See, there's a metaphor there too. So you got it. You're hitting your stride.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. I think a couple weeks ago I would have felt, it's not one of my usuals. I won't write it, but I'm glad that I shared it, or had the confidence to share it.
Yeah, because and you went from the problems and the alarms and the phones, and then because of that journey, it's a little mini journey in the story to the self-care, the retreat, the communication and boundaries. And then I have more patience. I can enjoy my kids. I can laugh more. Patience, positive energy, and laughing. There's your story arc.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep. Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome. Okay, so good. So we've got like 15-20 minutes for each of Nick and Chrissy. So Nick, you want to start first because you raised your hand first.
All right.
Okay. And which chapter? Tell us.
Yeah. Chapter 15.
Wow. Okay. Moving right along.
All right. Chapter 15. They walk awkwardly through the city looking for anyone that might need help. Charlie had pulled back his hood, and they both had removed their masks for now, in hopes to draw a little less attention to themselves. They still had makeup on their eyes, but ideally it wouldn't stand out as much to people driving by. So, we're just supposed to walk around and just run into a crime? Charlie asked. Rachel shrugged. I've never done this before, okay? Besides, there's so much crime to say we're about to find something. Charlie was about to respond when they heard a cry and someone rushed past, bumping into them. Stop, thief! A woman was shouting after the figure. Charlie and Rachel looked at each other, startled, pulled their masks on, and took off after the person running. Cold air filled Charlie's lungs as they rushed after the criminal, who turned into an alleyway. The two amateur heroes immediately followed the thief and discovered that, unfortunately for their pursuit, this particular alleyway was a dead end. As they closed in on the thief, the thief spun around so they could see it was a young man in a dark baseball cap holding a purse under his arm. Wow, Rachel said, catching her breath. Our first time we get a purse snatcher in an alleyway. Classic. All right, Charlie called to the thief. You can't go anywhere, man. So just give us the purse and let's make this easy. Back off, the man cried, and to Charlie's surprise, pulled out a pistol. Charlie and Rachel both tensed. Charlie tightened his grip on his staff. Well, man, there's no need for that. Who the hell are you guys? What, were you two going to some weird convention or something? Charlie glanced at Rachel. I told you that costumes were a bit much. You shut up, Rachel said, sounding annoyed. We're heroes, obviously. The thief snorted. Heroes? That's what this is? You're kids and pretty bad at this. We've got you cornered, Rachel replied in an offended tone. I've got a gun, he said, waving a gun around to make a point. While Rachel bickered with the purse snatcher, Charlie took stock of the alleyway. There was a black metal dumpster that smelled like death, a small wooden box that had been worn down by the rain, and a couple trash cans next to the door on their right. He focused on the trash cans. A bullet would go through the trash can lids so they couldn't be used as shields. But Charlie did have another idea. He took a deep breath and focused his will on the lids of the cans. In his mind, he could feel the cool metal they were made of. He squeezed the metal doghead cane topper and pushed energy towards the cans. He watched as the lids of the trash cans quietly lifted up behind the thief, who didn't notice. Rachel, however, did and kept the thief's attention. If we're just a couple of kids, then why do you need a gun? Seems excessive, doesn't it? Or just make you feel like a big tough man? It's keeping you away from me, isn't it? The purse snatcher snarled. Now you two are going to back away and let me go. Ah! He screamed in pain as the first lid flew through the air like a frisbee straight into his outstretched wrist. The gun fell out of his hand and clattered to the ground. The next lid slammed into his head hard, knocking him down. Charlie and Rachel moved forward quickly. Rachel kicked the gun away while Charlie grabbed the purse. The man moved to get up, but Rachel aimed a quick kick to his head and he collapsed unconscious. Nice, Charlie said, grinning. Two of them high-fived. It's their first night out, and they'd already stopped their first criminal. A police siren wailed nearby, startling them both. We should go, Rachel said. Cops don't really approve of vigilantes. Charlie nodded. What should we do with him? At this, Rachel grabbed the coil of rope she had hanging from her waist. She unraveled enough to tie both the thief's hands and legs. Charlie used his pocket knife to cut the rope, and they bound the first criminal up. For the final touch, Charlie leaned the purse against the man with a note that read, Please return to my owner, with a smiley face. Looks good, Rachel said. Now we should get out of here. They both removed their masks, and Charlie pushed his head back so they were able to slip out of the alleyway and blend in with the crowd just before a couple of cops rushed by. He went that way, officers. It was the person who'd been robbed. She was middle-aged with short brown hair and was looking anxious. I saw two people following him in there. I hope they're okay. That was the last I heard before the duo turned a corner and disappeared from the scene. As soon as they were clear, Charlie and Rachel stopped and looked at each other with matching looks of delight. Oh my God, that was amazing, Rachel cried while attempting to keep her voice down so nobody would notice. We did it, Charlie said enthusiastically. I think this makes us real heroes. Rachel beamed. You were amazing. That trick with the trash can lids was brilliant. I couldn't have done it without you keeping him talking. That kick at the end was great. They both took deep breaths, trying to calm down. Charlie's heart was beating fast, pumped up by adrenaline. I am so amped, Rachel cried, her eyes shining brightly with excitement. We've got to do it again. Right, Charlie agreed. Let's find another crime to stop. They grinned at each other and took off, looking for more wrongdoers. It took some time before they came across their next crime, but within an hour, they spotted it. There were a couple of kids talking to a sketchy-looking dude on the side street. Richard nudged Charlie, and they both watched as the teenagers chatted with a man who was wearing loose jeans and a dirty t-shirt. Two new heroes glanced at each other. Not a crime to talk, Charlie whispered. Rachel nodded. Let's keep an eye on him for a moment just in case. The duo stationed themselves a short distance away, pretending to be discussing something they were looking at on Rachel's phone. Then the exchange happened. It was quick, but Charlie saw them seemingly shake hands. And when they came away, one of the kids had a small bag in his hand that didn't look like it contained candy. Drug deal, Charlie murmured. Rachel frowned. Let's go. They slipped on their masks and headed down the side street towards the exchange happening. Hey! Rachel yelled sharply. What are you doing giving drugs to those kids? The teenagers jumped about a mile and scattered, dropping the bag, which Charlie now saw contained small, round, white tablets. Charlie was enraged seeing the baggie on the ground. How low do you have to be to sell that crap to minors? He snarled as calmly as possible. The drug dealer looked at him in surprise. What's it to you, jokers? You idiots just lost me a sale. You're done selling here, Rachel said quietly. Though from the corner of Charlie's eye, he could see the anger in her face. What do you two think? What, do you two think you're Batman or something? The dealer said, backing into the alleyway he had been standing in front of. Yeah, or something, Charlie replied, as they followed him in. Perhaps if Charlie and Rachel weren't so amped up, they might have noticed two important things. The first was that this alley, unlike the first, was not a dead end. And the second, they were not the only ones on the street. This is our city, Rachel growled, as she detached her batons. You don't belong here. They were all in the alleyway now, and the dealer was just smirking at them. I think you two kids are way over your heads here. Just go home to your safe, warm beds. Maybe Mommy will fix you a late-night snack. Not happening, Rachel said. At that moment, Charlie noticed some figures entering the alleyway from behind the dealer. Rach, he said. Rachel ignored him and flipped a switch on each of her batons. When she did so, an electric current lit up, flowing through the weapons. The hairs on Charlie's arms began to stand on end. You could hear people entering the alley from behind them as well. Can't say I didn't warn you, Dealey said, smirking widely. Likewise, Rachel replied. Rachel, Charlie said more urgently. What? She hissed. We're in trouble, he said as he glanced behind and saw that he was right. They were now surrounded by thugs. Rachel looked around too now, seeming more alarmed, seeing how outnumbered they were. Charlie glanced around the alley, hoping to see something he could use. It was fairly empty except for a dumpster and a crushed cardboard box. He was pretty sure he could push the dumpster at some of the thugs, but that would require time to concentrate. He was pretty sure these gang members weren't going to give him that. Yeah, this is bad, Rachel said, as some of them started pulling out guns. What do we do? Fight and hope for a miracle? Charlie said, trying to keep his eyes on all of their adversaries at once. Don't waste your bullets on these chumps, one guy, possibly the leader, said. We can teach them a lesson without that. Oh, thank God, Charlie thought. These aren't too bright. Both Charlie and Rachel slowly turned around so that they were now back to back. He could feel his palms sweating as he lifted his staff in defense. Ready? He hissed. Get these fools, the leader cried. Chaos erupted instantly as the gang rushed them. Charlie swung his staff quickly, cracking a couple gangsters on the head while he heard Rachel scream from behind him and start swinging the electric batons. One rather big guy swung a chain towards Charlie's head, but he saw in time and lifted his staff to catch it. The chain wrapped around the staff and Charlie pulled hard, yanking it out of the thug's hand. You could hear screams and fizzing noises from behind as Rachel's batons made contact with foes. They weren't doing bad, but there were still too many of them. He took his staff in two hands, took a deep breath, and focused on atoms spreading up until a burst of fire erupted out and Charlie swung around, creating a line of flame. People screamed and fell back away from him and Rachel. Not bad, he thought, and I hoped Rachel was doing okay too. He dared to glance back and saw the girl ducking under a guy's arm as he swung his knife at her and slammed one of her batons into his stomach. She appeared to have dropped the other baton, which had rolled several feet away. As Rachel got back up, though, someone else managed to sweep her legs out from under her, and she went down, losing her remaining baton. Rachel, Charlie cried, but he'd taken his attention away from his own enemies for too long. Before he could help Rachel, he felt a fist slam into the back of his head, and he went down, seeing birds flying across his vision. Damn it, he thought. It was just too much for them. The drug dealer may have been a scumbag, but he'd been right. They're in way over their heads. As the thugs surrounded the two on the ground, Charlie brought his staff in close to him and gathered up as much energy as he could muster. Energy from the ground, from himself and Rachel, from the air and trees, what few there were in this section of the city. He felt all within him now brewing up like a shaken ball of soda. The gang was on top of him now, ready to finish the duo. Charlie took a deep breath, shot his hand holding his staff out, and released the energy in one gigantic burst. A blue light flashed lighting up the whole alley and knocking the gangsters away from him onto the ground. It was now or never. Charlie mustered what strength he had left and pulled himself to his feet. He reached down and pulled Rachel up, too, who now looked a bit bruised. Come on, he cried, feeling the throbbing from the back of his head. They both ran to one of the alleyway exits and were almost free when the drug dealer they'd been confronting stood up, blocking their way with a pistol. Charlie groaned. He didn't have enough energy to stop this guy. Well, the drug dealer snarled with pure hate in his eyes. Guess I'll have to use some lead on you two after all. Charlie and Rachel looked at each other, both feeling despair. Charlie took a deep breath, bracing himself to be shot. Instead, to their utter surprise, they heard the sound of tires screeching and a sports car shot by from the street, slamming into the dealer, who was knocked off his feet. The driver opened up the passenger's seat. Get in! It was too dark to see who it was. It was too dark, and Charlie was in too much pain to register who the driver was. But he just ran. It was too dark, and Charlie was in too much pain to register who the driver was, so he just ran to the rescuer. Rachel threw herself into the back seat, while Charlie collapsed into the passenger seat and slammed the door shut. The car sped off as he heard gunshots firing after him. Charlie closed his eyes, breathing heavily, and thanking God that he made it out of that ordeal alive. Thank you so much. Charlie opened his eyes as he heard his heartbeat slowed, and finally looked at the rescuer properly. To his shock, the one that had just rescued the two of them was none other than Learleg King. That's the end of the chapter.
Wow, moving that story right along. Okay, feedback for Nick. You got the thumbs up and celebrations.
I feel like I do so much talking. I'm sorry. First of all, I need to tell you that when I went, yes, when Nick said he was going to read, it's only because Nick is the one in the group that's like left me hanging where I'm like, what's happening, Nick? Like Lauren's concise and I like come away with the recipes and stuff. And Maria, I love the loons, but I feel like I was in a good place with them and I'm ready to hear more. Chrissy, I know what's happening. Nick left me hanging for a few weeks. Um, but Nick, this is amazing. I absolutely love this. You didn't have a lot of description of the setting, like, but you didn't need it, because when you say a dark alley, I can conjure all of that in my mind. And because you did the minimalism with the description of the actual setting, you were able to focus on the dialogue, which is, as always, the absolute hallmark of your writing. I love your dialogue. It's just seeing them at first walking around. What are we just supposed to run into some crime? I mean, it's so funny, but at the same time, it's not lighthearted because you have this great sense of like foreboding as they're going into this. All the dialogue is so good. I told you the costumes were a bit much, like, I've got a gun, I please return me to my owner with a smiley face. Oh my God. Some of your descriptions, like the bag didn't look like it contained candy. Oh God, when he ever said, "What do you guys think, you're Batman or something?" I mean, this is so funny. What Denise said, the story's moving along at such a great pace, and it's just really, really good. Like I know that sounds really cheesy to say, like, it's really, really good, but like, I'm just so captivated by this. I want to know what's happening next. I can't wait to hear you read again. Every time I see you at Market Basket and I like wave at you, I want to be like, Nick, tell me more. I can't be professional. But no, it's really, really good. And I'm just so captivated by this story, and you're just doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Agreed.
I agree with everything Dawn said. I love that they're walking around and they're just expected to run into a crime. I just thought that was so funny. But you did have good descriptions too, like the cold air filling his lungs. I love the line, the person was supposed to expect to run into a purse snatcher, and then they're like classic, when they do run into the tighten the grip on the staff. We've got you cornered, like I love, what? It shows his how they're thinking creatively, though, how he thought of the trash can lids for the shields behind his back. That was great. And the note, it really reminded me of something Spider-Man would do, like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, how he, it goes to show that you're familiar with the genre, so you can play with a lot of ideas while coming up with your own, which is awesome. And, you have a good balance of fun and seriousness. And I like how, like you didn't need the description because it was more action. So to quicken it up in the reader's mind, it is good not to have a bunch of description because it helps with the pacing. So I just love it. And I also like how you had the two scenarios. First, they were successful, and then the second time didn't work out so well, but they got the esteem from it. They felt good about themselves. And then it's like, oh, this is what can really happen. It sounds better on paper, but when it actually occurs, totally different, So I just love the back and forth with that, how we got to see the two scenarios, and it kind of led you up to the real part of it, where the real serious, crime came about. So it was good. And I love it. But the lines were so good with the gun and everything. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Any other comments for Nick?
I agree. It's so good. I love your descriptions, and just I can totally just picture it in my mind. Even their dialogue, I can picture them saying it. I want you to finish this so you can write the book and have there be a movie. I just think it's so vivid. And I love the humor balancing out the seriousness too. It just makes it that much more interesting to read. And the waving, when he was waving the "I've got a gun" and waving it, you could totally picture a character doing that. So awesome. Yes, awesome job, Nick.
I agree with everyone. And also the whole movie, definitely. I could see a movie. Definitely.
Yeah, I actually had that thought when you were reading it. It would not take much to turn that into a screenplay. Screenwriting is really awesome. Oh God, yeah, I'll echo a lot of what's already been said, but I want to point out that tension between the two scenes that Chrissy mentioned. You have the story W in that chapter, and that's what it is. It's like, let's go find some crime. They found some crime. They fought the crime. They had their success. They went to find the next crime. That's your downward motion. And it was a bigger challenge. It wasn't as easy. They were failing at it. The rescuer, and I wrote down the word rescuer before you even said it, because that's an archetype. And then you said it, and I'm like, you've got it all going on. So you've got the structure right there. This is a really great example for all of us as the W plot structure within a chapter. And you've got that tail hanging there, for who rescued him. You just, the humor was in there, and that's balanced. You've got this beautiful way of balancing the tension with the humor, so it keeps it lighthearted enough. The matching looks of delight. I love that. You've got the emotional piece in there. The next crime, it took them an hour to find it, but they found it, right? And then the bickering, it's like Rachel was offended, but he's got the pistol, and it's like, the bickering. And just OMG, that was just, it's brilliant. The Frisbees, yep, Batman or something. And you've got this beautiful way of narrating without bogging it down and moving the story forward. I agree with the comments about the alleyway, and the dumpster smelled like death, and so we got it, like, dark alleyway. The screams and the fizzy noises. The fizzy, I think you said fizzy noises from the electrical.
Yeah, from the electric batons.
Yeah, it's like, just, that was great. The line of flames, oh, not bad, he thought. It's this tongue in cheek with it. Yeah, the birds, the vision, it's great. And then I also loved how Charlie's developing his character, because it seemed to me his power is increasing. He's learning how to harness and utilize his powers with the staff, right?
Yeah.
So he's learning to master it. This is his developing some maturity with the, it's like Luke Skywalker with the Force. Luke learns how to harness and use the Force. That's character development. So you've got it. So it's great. It's great. Keep going. Really good. Yeah. And we're loving it. So yeah, we want to hear the end. Awesome. Okay, so Chrissy, let's have you wrap us up here. I do want to save a couple minutes for goal setting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's see.
So thank you, Nick.
Later, from the kitchen, Jax heard Lexi's footsteps as she raced down the stairs in order to make it to breakfast a half an hour later, on time. She must be interested in what he had to say, he thought. Either that or she was just hungry and wanted the food he prepared. Easy, said Jax, chuckling as he placed a serving bowl on the counter at the bar. You don't have to rush. You're fine. Yes, I do. I'm always late, Lexi said as she skidded to a halt. So I'm warning you ahead of time. You're welcome. She shrugged, contradicting her words with a small smile of apology. In my defense, I'm a writer, so it's not like I get out of the house a lot, but it's been worse since COVID. She trailed off as she glanced at the counter. Oh my God, she said as she noticed the serving bowls full of scrambled eggs, hash browns, and a plate full of bacon. You made so much food. Jax placed another plate with English muffins on the counter. What kind of music do you like? Jax asked. Lexi smiled, and traces of crinkles cornered her green eyes, which sparkled with interest. Country music. Since I moved to the Southwest, I wanted to listen to it more. I didn't really listen to the genre back home, but being in Arizona and since getting a divorce, the emotions in the songs really speak to me. Jax nodded, thankful to get a bit more information out of Lexi about her history. Sounds good, he said as he asked the virtual assistant located on the counter to play popular country music. The twang of a guitar started, and when the lyrics began, Lexi closed her eyes and swayed back and forth to the slow beat. See, she said, listen to this song. Jax listened as he poured himself a cup of coffee, but he wasn't sure what she'd been hinting at, so he just smiled. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be listening for, but it's a nice song. Optimistic. Yes, said Lexi as she clapped, and her feet sprung up as her voice shook with excitement. Exactly. I'm already getting inspired with just a few notes. My muse is speaking to me. Really? What's she saying? Lexi stared off in wonder as she contemplated the answer to his question. Well, my idea hasn't exactly formed something meaningful yet, she added after a pause, but my mind is connecting it to ways to be optimistic during the pandemic, and now I want to write about it. I'll let you know when the idea solidifies in my mind. Ah, said Jax, sounds like my idea for your story. Really, she squeaked. What? When are you going to tell me? Jax pointed to the counter. First, let's start eating before the food gets cold. She murmured. Thank you so much for cooking. Then she held up Jax's cell phone that he'd given her the night before. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Sam just texted me thanking you for the groceries. You didn't have to do that. That was so nice of you. No problem. I tried to get everything that was in your cart last night. Lexi put the phone down and she turned to Jax. Her green eyes shimmered like waves on a tropical beach, the emotions rocking her. Everything in my cart? That's so sweet of you. She swallowed, and a pang seared across Jax's chest. As soon as I get another ATM card, I can pay you back for those. Jax waved his hand. Don't worry about it, he said as he cleared his clogged throat of his own emotions. It had been a while since a woman had said he'd done something sweet for her. I was more than happy to get them for you and Sam. No way, that's so much money, she said, shaking her head. Even if you refuse, I'll find a way to pay you back. There were a ton of ways Jax could see how Lexi could pay him back, but after last night, he'd keep the sexy banter to a minimum. He didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. Besides, he didn't want to come off as being a jerk. So he just nodded his head. If Lexi left some cash behind in the coming days, he would just send it back to her house. Lexi pulled the stool back with a screech across the wooden floor and sat down. Then she just stared at the food he'd made, her wide green eyes shining with appreciation at his gesture. But her gratitude was magnified to a 10 plus, like she couldn't believe someone had taken the time to prepare a meal for her. Again, that made him curious about her history, her background. Had no one really done much for her in her life? He frowned, his throat tightening again as sadness squeezed his chest. What kind of man had she been married to who didn't give her the kind of life that she deserved? He shook his head. It didn't matter anyway. He would continue to make her happy while she was staying with him, and maybe beyond if he was lucky. The warm smells of bacon and eggs called him over to the counter. He stayed at the other end of the bar, still adhering to the 6 feet rule as he pulled out his own chair to sit down. He glanced over at Lexi, who'd been apparently waiting for him to begin eating. So let's dig in. He leaned over to grab the eggs. You have my favorite tea, said Lexi. Usually people only have coffee. Then she picked up a jar, and raw honey, too. How did you know? Jax smiled as he piled the eggs on his plate. As I said, I got everything in your cart, and I'm a good detective. The smile she'd returned to Jax resulted in a burst of laugh lines around Lexi's mouth, showcasing her adorable dimples. I bet you are, she said. Don't bother with a background check for me, detective. I have nothing to hide. Jax chuckled. That's what they all say. We're lucky at our age, social media wasn't around to capture all the dumb things we said and did growing up. It's not like what the kids have to deal with nowadays. She scooped up some eggs and bacon and placed them on her plate. So, you have an idea for my story? Jack smiled, knowing she couldn't wait to ask him. He knew what that was like when you had an idea and you couldn't wait to carry it out. Yes, I do. I don't suggest you use this method for people who just met each other, but it can be used with couples that have decided they like each other and want to continue to build on their relationship. He chewed his eggs as he thought about how to present the idea to her. He hoped that she wasn't going to take his idea the wrong way. You mentioned that you wanted to write about creative ways to be socially distant during dating. He took a sip of his hot coffee, the bitter taste and caffeine giving him an extra jolt of confidence that his idea could not only work, but that he'd convinced Lexi that she could make dating work with him during COVID-19 as well. Right now, single people are in a tough situation. Of course, they're lonely and they want a partner, but they also miss their family and friends. Dating during the coronavirus may seem like an extra chore given that they're worried about catching the virus. They may not think that it's worth their time with the consequences. He took another sip, the warmth invigorating him as he continued. You need to have fun with your advice and your story and help them forget about the Rona apocalypse that's happening in the world. He broke apart a piece of bacon and popped it in his mouth. In my mind, I call them Rona points because I was thinking about our discussion about Rona cock blocking me last night. Lexi giggled and his heart skidded as he remembered how close they'd been to disregarding his COVID precautions for a night of sex with her. We can try it for your research, but I think that these points can encourage fun games to help each person get to know one another, and they can use them to cash in after their quarantine is over. Research, huh? Lexi picked up her tea and took a gulp as her eyes widened in surprise. Points for what? Like for sex, she asked. She took another sip of her tea, and Jax wondered if she'd been trying to hide her embarrassment as her cheeks blossomed to a rosy hue. No, he said, holding up his hands in placation. It can, but it doesn't have to be about sex. Crap, this conversation wasn't going the way he thought it would. It can be for a massage or a special place that can take you on a date. His idea sounded great in his mind. Maybe you should approach it in a different way. Maybe you can get her to talk about her fantasy. She had to be thinking of someone when he'd accidentally caught her using her vibrator. Maybe the sexy banter and the two of them Maybe the sexy banter that the two of them shared last night would help. Who were you thinking about last night? Lexi jolted forward, spitting out some of her tea that she'd been drinking again. She grabbed a napkin to wipe the dribble down her chin. Aw, he wanted to lick it off her. Crimson stained her cheeks as she cleared her throat. I'm sorry, said Jax. I didn't mean to. He stood up to help her pat her on the back. Lexi shook her head. I'm fine, she stammered and waved him away. Say that again? Geesh, now he was embarrassed that he'd brought it up. When you were using the vibrator, who were you thinking about? He forced himself to keep eye contact with Lexi because he knew if he looked away, it would seem like he wasn't supporting her if she decided to trust him and answer his question. Come on, Lexi, he thought. Instinctively, he knew that she was a strong individual, and he hoped that he could help stir that part of her that she'd been holding back. She covered her face and closed her eyes. I don't know if I can answer that. I'll tell you who I was thinking about when I was taking care of business if you tell me who you were thinking about. Well, let me think about it, she said as she opened her eyes and rolled them. Okay, who? You, silly, she jolted back. Me? Yes, you. Is that really hard to believe? Yes, no, I don't know. You still owe me an answer, huh? Who were you thinking about? You, she mumbled as she lowered her gaze and focused intently on slathering her English muffin in butter. Was I any good? Lexi dropped the knife with a clatter against her plate. That depends. Was I any good? Oh, yes, he said, the heat of his voice enough to melt that butter on Lexi's English muffin. Lexi smiled. You are too good, charming. Then she lifted her eyes, Then she shifted, her eyes darting across the tabletop as an awkward silence followed. Do you have any jelly? She asked, changing the subject. Jax shook her head. Jax shook his head. Crap, I think it's the only item I forgot. I wish I had my purse, said Lexi. I always keep those packets in there. Jax chuckled. You hoard those packets? Why? You never know when you're going to be in a jam, said Lexi as she laughed, the sound warming Jax like the sun's rays. But then a moment later, something eclipsed that warmth, something cold which formed a sheet of ice in her eyes. The transition was so quick that Jackson had only had time to blink. It seemed as if Lexi only allowed herself so much happiness before letting the cold seep back in. The icy wall told Jax there was some deeper meaning for her comment. Anything more to add? Asked Jax in a soft voice, aware that he could be close to either breaking that ice and letting the warmth back in or encouraging the coldness to encase her. You trusted me a moment ago. This is only for research. Anything you say to me would be kept confidential. I just think that this discussion would be great for your story, he continued. When you understand what it's like opening up to someone, your readers will understand your experience. Even if you don't share the specifics of that story, you'll have an easier time relating to them. Hesitancy clouded her gaze. Then her voice hardened with strain, and she still remained quiet as she spoke. I grew up in several foster homes, and some of the people that raised me were not the greatest caretakers. The air whooshed out of Jax's lungs, the bastards. In his line of police work, seeing children neglected and abused was some of his toughest cases. I'm so sorry. I know that's hard to share something like that with someone you just met. Thank you for trusting me with that. What about you? Asked Lexi. Do you have something you could share with me that you could trust me to know? Jack swallowed. When I was a freshman in college, my father was arrested for taking bribes as a police officer. Oh God, I'm so sorry you had to deal with something like that, said Lexi. Jack shrugged. Yeah, well, it was a long time ago. He reached out a hand across the counter. If it wasn't for the 6 feet rule, I'd give you a hug right now. Thank you again for trusting me. I guess I'd give us both 15 points for that. Plus you get an extra 5 for admission to your fantasy man. Lexi laughed as she grabbed a pen and his to-do list with her notes still on the counter. Jax watched as she wrote his name on one side with a line down the middle and her name on the other. You get extra points too, she said, adding 15 tick marks under each name. I guess I have to thank you. Oh, what for? I've never been anyone's fantasy woman before.
That's great. Okay. Oh, that's so coming along. I think, have you hit the middle point with this?
I don't know. That was chapter 13.
Okay, because there's
It's 37,000 words so far. So yeah, probably. If it's going to be like a little bit past 50, 60, I'm not even sure. I have a lot of scenes I still want to do, but it tends to be longer with all my descriptions and stuff. So, but I think I am past the halfway mark. Hopefully.
So it wasn't even about the word count as much as, and you said chapter 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there seems to be the turning point from a plot standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, what other feedback do people have for Chrissy? And then I have a couple comments, but yeah.
I just love it. I think it is also moving along so nicely. Lexi's such a cute character, and some of your descriptions of her, like the uncomfortable conversation that they had, and then when she in a jam, like she kind of puts, I thought that was really funny. And what else do I have over in here? And I thought Jax as a character too, he's very like, of course he says like well, I could think of ways to pay you back, but or how can we pay back? But he's also like caring, and he like really wants to like help her with this. The Rona, what was the name of the points? Rona points. I thought that was really cute. Like he's very helpful. So I'm loving your characters also, and really enjoying how the story's coming along.
Thank you.
Chrissy, I love these characters so much. They're fam at this point. I love them. I'm screaming over that. I didn't even catch the butter melting on the English muffin. I mean, there's so much stuff that's so good in this. It's got this like built in, like even when you're not like meaning to explicitly be like, this is a sexy scene, like it's still there. Like there's still that like sexual energy between them, and it's great. I mean, like I said before, you have this great thing where you can be talking about something and you're being kind of playful and being kind of sexy in the writing, and yet you still get some of this really deep stuff across. When she's talking about her past, when he opens up about his past, you do it in such a way that it's effortless, like it's real conversation. I mean, I can imagine somebody having these conversations, and it blends so well. I'm really excited for the stuff you have planned too. So
thank you.
I've already bought the book. I love it.
I just wanted to say I absolutely loved when the tea was dribbling down her chin and he wanted to lick it off of her. That was like priceless for me.
Oh.
And the whole was I any good in your
Thank you.
And Nick, any feedback?
I love the banter between these two. I think they've got great chemistry. And a jam joke was great.
Thank you.
I just enjoy listening to these characters. in being with them.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable.
Yeah. No, they really are developing. The banter's there. Like Don was saying, the internal processing is there. The socially awkward part is great. And you've got the senses with the stool screeching across the floor. I appreciate how you've got appreciation and gratitude coming in, and the ways to be optimistic during COVID. So this is a story that's very saleable. I really believe that. And then you've got the the dimples, the background check. You've got this humorous, there's this humorous lilt to it, even though it's sort of like some of it's serious. Serious, like there's a serious theme, but there's a humorous tone to it, is a better word for it. Yeah, the concrete idea about dating. This is what made me think like we're hitting a turning point in this story, because you're getting into the concrete suggestions. I loved how coffee gave Jax confidence, right? The runner apocalypse, it just spitting the tea and dribble, as Maria said. And then you had Lexi's cheeks go from pink to crimson. Like, this is a concrete way to show the reader what's happening with that, like, very little description, but we can picture that, right? And then that whole taking, the tit for tat conversation, taking care of business, was just priceless. Okay. The knife with the splatter, like all these really great things. And then the deep part is, Lexi having a limit on how much happiness she could have before she goes into the dark stuff, right? And then what I really super appreciate too about your writing is you're writing a book for your readers, but in the story, Lexi's writing a book for her readers. So you've got this level of meta-analysis that's going on. So you're describing it for your readership within the story of Lexi. But it's so that's brilliant, and it's a little hard to do, but you're doing it. So, and like the air whooshed, and then the whole points is great. So keep going, because we
Thank you.
want to hear the end of it. Awesome. All right, let's I know we're at 8:34. Let's just do our SMART goals for next week, so that really concrete between now and next Tuesday. So okay, wait, clearly I need to update the slide. Okay, Chrissy, you're on top, so let's just have you set your goal for next week. So clearly you started chapter 13.
Yeah, actually, and that was the end of it. So I started another chapter and I named it 14. So finish chapter 14, and I'm going to continue on building now because things are changing. So I'm going to hint at the antagonist more.
Okay.
Or several antagonists, I should say, but one of them, yeah.
Okay. All right. And I had another thought about if you did want to do a sequel with the neighbor moving in next door. If you make it a woman, you could have the love triangle between the new neighbor Jax and then Lexi. So it could be, you could have the neighbor and Jax like houses either next to,
oh yeah.
Lexi's like on the other street type, but you could set up a love triangle that way. That's
right.
You don't have to do anything with it if you don't want to, but it popped into my head.
I like that.
Okay. Let's just go right down in order here then. So Dawn, how's about your goal for next week?
My character is still in New Hampshire. I need to get him down to Rhode Island. So he can't do that now in COVID, but in my story he can. So he needs to get to Rhode Island.
Okay, so to go from New Hampshire to Rhode Island.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, how's about Nick?
I want to finish chapter 19.
Okay, you are moving right along, sir. Still 2 pages per week or just the chapter?
Yep. The 2 pages is good.
Okay, great. Lauren, how's about yours?
I'm gonna edit my blog post and start the next content.
Okay.
Idea.
All right. Whoop, edit blog post and then say again.
What did I say? Write the next content idea.
Okay. So we'll make this a little more specific. Thank you for that clarity.
You're welcome.
Content idea, and whatever that looks like, we'll leave that up to you. Good. Okay, and then Maria, you're back with us, so let's definitely update your goal.
I want to do this book writing time and schedule at least 15 minutes every day
Okay,
to just focus on it.
yep. Beautiful. All right. Any other last comments or feedback for tonight? Celebrating you all, and remember, promise me you'll always remember, you're braver than you believe, you're stronger than you seem, you're smarter than you think, and you are loved more than you know. So with that, thank you all. Okay, have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and I'll see you on Tuesday night.
Yes.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Good luck writing.
Yep. So Maria, hang out and we'll get you scheduled.
Okay.
Okay, if everyone else signs off. Thanks. And then Chrissy, I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. All right, my darling, let me shut this off for, hang on. Let me stop.